All right, I think I'm going to go ahead then. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, everyone, for this webinar on digital review copies. So my name's Eve Dunn. I'm part of the UK Client Success team, and I'll be presenting today. We have a short presentation first, which is going to answer the questions you can see on the screen here, and that will be followed by a video demo. So if you have questions at any point, my lovely colleague Heather is in the chat monitoring for questions if you want to drop any, whether that's through the presentation or later in the video. We will try to make time for a bit of a Q&A at the end. So yeah, let's jump straight in. So the basics of DRCs. A lot of you are familiar with Edelweiss as a platform for buying and title discovery, but as well as hosting catalogs, publishers can also offer digital review copies. So these are proofs. And just from having an Edelweiss account, a lot of these are immediately accessible to you, but some do need to be requested. So as a bookseller, you set up a review profile, which is a one-time thing. And on the review copy admin side, which is the publisher side, they'll be monitoring those requests and approving or denying. Of course, the benefit to having these in Edelweiss is that you're reading where you're buying. So you can go immediately from a catalogue into a book. And what better way to make an informed buying decision than even just a few flicks through a couple of pages of a title, along with those comps and markup notes from your publishers. So how can you read immediately in your browser? And that's with Edelweiss Reader, which is our built-in product. So you don't even have to leave the platform for this. It just opens a new tab, as we'll see later in the demo, and it works very well on computers and phones. There's the capability to track reading progress and make notes and add bookmarks. And this is perfect for if it's a bit of a quiet day in the shop and maybe you want to get ahead on reading some of those new titles that are being released soon. But of course, you can also download to other devices. It is worth noting as well that this is a bookseller perk. So you do want to have all of your colleagues and booksellers on your user account. So everyone can read exactly what they like, and it makes sure that people are going to have that best confident hand selling experience. So this benefits you and your customers because it enriches those customer interactions. And also, a lot of publishers are auto approving BA members. So if you're part of that community on Edelweiss, you'll find that you automatically have access to DRCs that others are having to request. And of course, there's the environment factor. So famously, print review copies do generate a lot of waste because of this problem of them not reaching the right people. So often they're unsolicited, and this even was a discussion at the IPG Spring Conference back in February. So bookshops are amassing a lot of proofs that just aren't getting read, and they're taking up space, and it's just a bit of a waste of time for the publisher and the bookseller. The unsolicited problem is solved because these publishers can reach the people they want to directly. And this doesn't mean that your way of reading overall has to change, but as it says here, your way of reading for work can just be so much more streamlined and effective. And here's a list of the compatible devices. So you'll see some familiar e-readers here, as well as some apps that can be used on Android or iPhone. And there's extensive help documents for every one of these. So if you have any of these devices or apps, but not quite sure how to go ahead, we won't actually cover that in the video because obviously there's so many of them, but there's a help document for every single one. Right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen quickly so I can begin with this video. If you just bear with me one moment. So in this video, we're going to see exactly where you're finding these titles and how to filter them so you find the best title for you, and then how to read or download them. Okay, I'm just going to stop my video a second, and I'm going to go ahead and play that now.
All right, welcome everyone. This is a view that will be familiar to a lot of you. This is your homepage in Edelweiss, and it's populated by customizable widgets. So each one of these can be moved, changed, or even deleted, and you can add new ones up here. But you'll notice that one of the default ones, is digital review copies. So this is the place where newer review copies are found. just a nice accessible way to see what's going on in the world of review copies on Edelweiss. Now you'll see that to the right of each title there's a symbol or a combination of symbols, and these are very important to the process of requesting, reading or downloading, so we'll cover exactly what they mean shortly. But for now, let's head over to the dedicated review copies page in Edelweiss, and that can be found along the top option of tabs here, so we'll just click into that. Right, so this is where we're going to find every review copy available for our market, and you'll see that it's a sizable amount. There's 47 pages worth and over 2,000 titles. Along the top here we have featured titles, which are titles promoted by the publisher, and this rotates on a weekly basis. So let's talk a little bit more about those symbols I mentioned earlier. You can see now that each symbol has a ribbon to go with it, and these refer to the status of the review copy. So if you see a sandy ribbon and a hand, that means that the title is available to request. So the publisher has put it on Edelweiss, but you can't immediately read it. You have to request it first and provide a statement for why you want to read that title. Also, you may have just seen that when I hover over it, it gives me a bit more information. So it says that this was added 8 hours ago, and if I hover over the hand, if you don't have a gigantic mouse like mine, you can see it says request DRC. If we scroll a bit further down, we can see some green ribbons, which means a title is available to read immediately. But there's several ways you can start reading in Edelweiss, and that's either downloading, which is what the cloud refers to, so download DRC, or you can read immediately in your browser with Edelweiss's built-in e-reader, Edelweiss Reader. So that then says read now in Edelweiss Reader. So now we know a bit more about how to access a DRC, let's take a look at refining these results to find a perfect read. So if we scroll back to the top, you'll notice along the left-hand side we have an array of refinements that follow all the way down the page. Let's start with review copy options. So we just discussed Edelweiss Reader and downloading, so downloading to a Kindle, a phone or a computer. So let's have a look at refining the results by Edelweiss Reader. It might be the case that you're working in the shop and you have Edelweiss open on your browser and you only have time to flick through some picture books. So this is a point which Edelweiss Reader would be a good option for you. So let's look at these results. Now you can see that despite some of these being available in Edelweiss Reader, that doesn't mean they're automatically green. It just means that you still have to request these ones, but if you're approved, it will then become available in Edelweiss Reader. Since I mentioned picture books, let's have a look at refining these results to children's titles. I'm going to scroll down here to category, and there's children's, teenage and educational, for which there's 63 review copies. But let's dig a little bit deeper. I'm just going to expand this one here and go to picture books and activity books and early learning material. This is the sort of thing that's perfect for an easy read on the shop floor. So let's go ahead and click that. You'll see that it's noted that I've made a refinement at the top here, and if I hover over it, it will tell me exactly what. And this is also where I'm going to remove any refinements that I no longer want to see. You might have noticed a ribbon that we've not seen before, which is grey. This is just referring to titles that I've already read and downloaded. So if I hover over it, it's going to tell me that it was added 8 days ago and I downloaded it 7 days ago, and a similar review for this. So now that we have a refinement that we're happy with, we might want to find more information out about these titles. I could click on each title to see a presentation mode, which would give me a summary up here, some contributor information, any images, links, and so on. Or, since this isn't a massive amount of titles, I might change the view to full view. So I'm just going to click that and allow me to scroll through these titles like it was in a catalogue. I'll also be able to see comps. So this is a brilliant example. The Story Orchestra has been very popular in our shop, the entire series, and we can see that the Swan Lake version we actually sold 30 of in our lifetime, and last year we sold 10, and this is in fact why I started to read it. Once you've found the title that you'd like to read, all you need to do is click one of these symbols. So let's scroll down to find one I haven't read before. And I'm just going to click Edelweiss Reader, and this will open in another tab and it will let me know that it's pulling the book from my shelf. And here we have the first page. You'll find reader settings up here, where I can zoom in or out or change the page view if there's the option for more than one page. And the main menu is here. I could jump to any page by entering a number or using the arrows, and I could find help or leave feedback or view the title in Edelweiss. To navigate, I could use these arrows to go back or forward, or I'm just going to use my arrow keys. Once I'd read this title, I'd leave a review in Edelweiss, so I'm going to go back to my other tab, and I'd click Review here. The only score you do actually need to leave is an overall one, so let's give this a 9. But there are other options down here. I can even add themes, so let's say mindfulness, and just enter that. And I can write the review here. I'll just paste something in for now. Before I save, I'm going to want to share with the publisher since they provided this DRC. They may go on to use this review as part of their featured reviews, which you can see on any title. So I'm just going to click that and then press save. And now that's loaded, we can see that I have reviewed it and left it an overall score of 9. Let's go back to the main review copies page and get rid of all these refinements. So I'm going to scroll back, minus any refinements, and go back to digital review copies up here. So now let's cover downloading a DRC. So I'm going to go to review copy options and to download. And I'm just going to show you the start of this process, because we don't have the time to go through how you download to each various device. But I'll show you the beginning of the process, which is just clicking on the cloud icon. And you see we get this information about the DRC. But what I'm going to do is go to change up here. And this is where I select the format that I want to download the file in. So I have it set to standard, as I'm usually downloading to Adobe Digital Editions, and that's covered by PC here. But of course there's also Nook, iPad, iPhone, Android and Sony e-reader also covered under standard. If I read primarily on a Kindle, then I'd select that. And whichever one I select here, I'd then go ahead and set this as my preferred format for future downloads, which can obviously be changed if my preferred format starts to change. So I'm just going to select standard again and there. Then I can press continue. Now I'd go ahead and download the file by pressing continue here, and then I'd be able to download that to whatever device I'm using. So it's a very quick process. It's worth noting at this point that the number of review copies is always being updated. New ones are constantly being added, so obviously the more there is, the longer the load times, but you can change what you're seeing from up here. So I might want to only see the review copies added in the last 3 months to thin out my results a little bit. I'll just cover quickly some other refinements that may be useful. Down here we have priority, which is part of a markup set by a rep in a catalogue. So if I click highlighted, it's going to show me this title that my rep has marked as highlighted in one of our catalogues. So let's have a look. I'm going to click into this title, and in fact I'm going to go to see more information to give me that catalogue view, and you can see that yes, it's entirely highlighted and my rep has added notes and tags and comps. The fact that this is a highlighted title and it's highly recommended by my rep means that I might be more likely to download this one, and you can see from this grey banner that I did 14 days ago. So let's go back to review copies again. And let's look at one more notable refinement. An underrated one, I think, is honours. So any time a title has an associated award, we try to make sure that that's visible in Edelweiss. So we have a whole list of awards here, but let's have a look at British Fantasy Award. If I click that, and there's only one title, but you can see this is a DRC that's available to download. And maybe I've seen from analytics that my adult graphic novel section does well, but is a little bit understocked. So this might be one that I'll read to see whether it's worth having in the shop. So I'm just going to remove that refinement again. Of course, you can also apply your own saved filters. So I have some that I've made that work very well for my shop, and I could apply any of those here to see if it pulls any results. So finally, we're going to take a look at requesting a DRC. Now, there is one that caught my eye earlier, so I'm going to search for that here. The Road, but a graphic novel adaptation. You can even see that I did mark this as anticipating among my shelves. So let's just go ahead and press that hand symbol, and you'll see that it brings up the review copy request form, and a lot of this is based on a profile that you have. Now, this is what the publisher is going to be basing their decision on, or a big part of it. So they want to know who you are and why you're requesting it, and the who you are is in your profile. So that can be edited at any point in Edelweiss from your profile up here. You just press your profile picture and go to your profile and account, and you'll find a lot of that under basic information here. But for ease of use, anytime you request a DRC that requires requesting, you can also edit it from this pencil icon here. So you'll see I have a description of my role and where I work and my role summary, but links are really important to drag that score up. So my profile strength is good, but it could be excellent, and that might be helped by adding a few more links here. But for now, I'm just going to return to the request. So like I mentioned, another part is letting them know why you're requesting the title. So I'm just going to enter something in here. Again, I'm just going to paste something in this time, but it is worth putting a bit of thought into what you put here. And you can see my evaluation purpose is acquisition, but there's several options. Now that I've got that, I'm just going to go ahead and press submit. And you can see that this has changed to a yellow ribbon to let me know that it's pending approval, and I requested it 1 minute ago. This is also going to sit under requests you've made and open. So this request is still open, but I can keep checking it over here to see the updates. And of course, if it's approved, it's going to sit in here. And if it's unfortunately declined for whatever reason, it will go in here. Okay, so back to the home page, you can see what it looks like now that I've been approved this DRC. So it's sitting in my notifications widget, or I can find it up here, and either of these notifications will take me right to that title presentation. But of course I can go to my review copies page, and it's now sitting in my approved section, and it looks like I could either download this title or start reading it immediately in Edelweiss Reader. So that's the fundamentals of digital review copies in Edelweiss. And of course, if you ever want to know more, you can go to this symbol up here to take you to our knowledge base, where you'll find loads of help documentation. But you can also contact our support team here.
All right, well, thanks for watching that, everyone. I hope you were able to gain an understanding of how DRCs work and why they're actually quite exciting. I would really emphasize that point of making sure all your booksellers are on there so they all have access to these books and they're able to review them as well, because these reviews also feed very well into Edelweiss 360, which a lot of you have access to. So anyone who has Edelweiss Analytics immediately has access to Edelweiss 360, which is our mailing system. I'm just going to see if there's any questions that weren't answered in the chat. If any come through the Q&A. There's one there. So how long does a proof stay available if I'm given access to it? So that really depends on what the publisher has set it to. So they set the expiry date, and that's often the publication date, but some of them set them to never expire. So for example, I have a graphic novel on my account which actually doesn't expire, so I always have access to it. But if it does expire, say within 90 days or on the publication date, it just means that little ribbon won't be there anymore, but you'll still have that title presentation so you can look at the review you gave it. Yeah, just going to see if any more questions come through. If you don't want people to see questions in the main chat, you can put it anonymously in the Q&A bit. All right. Well, this session was recorded, so if you have colleagues who weren't able to make it, or there's bits you just would like to see again, that will be available to watch. But thank you so much for your time. I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. I'll let you get back to your bookshops. Bye.